You're an ex-chemist and an extreme sport athlete.
I'm always happiest when I'm creating.
Have you always been a person that kind of like thinks outside the matrix?
I felt like I had no choice but to sort of, try something new and a little bit weird and a little bit different.
You have 3 games released on Steam.
There's like 5 or 6 of us that catch up every Tuesday and we just play test each other's games.
Today, I sat down with Jackson Nexip of Slightly Esoteric Games on YouTube. Now, Jackson is an ex-chemist who's actually competed at Harvard, is an extreme sport athlete, and is one of the genuinely most interesting people I've ever talked to. Today, we dive into his big ideas on game dev, mental health, and philosophy, and he's also a person that has released 3 games on Steam. There's a ton for us to learn from him, and I'm super excited to share our conversation. Let's go.
You have probably the most badass description of any game dev person I've ever seen. You're an ex-chemist and an extreme sport athlete. So how did you go from that to video games, and how do those things either work together or not together at all?
Yeah, well, that's I'm trained in chemistry. That was sort of my thing. Throughout high school, I had a great teacher who sort of inspired me to follow that path. And yeah, I've just always sort of been fascinated by like science and maths and things like that. So that was my thing for a while. Went to uni to study chemistry and worked in that field for a little while. But I think the thing that eventually was the deal breaker for me was I think I just wanted something that was a bit more. I had a bit more freedom to be creative rather than sort of being like locked into research or something. I wanted to do something where I could do music. I wanted to be able to do art. I wanted to be able to, I guess, like sort of express myself in those ways. And I think that the leap to game development, it felt pretty natural because it was like a lot of the principles behind like how games are run and things. It's like you're basically just running simulations that, we sort of did a bit of that in chemistry and that. And obviously there's like vector math and physics and shit like that. So that was sort of the jumping in point for me. As for the extreme sports stuff, that's just something that I've done just since I was a kid. Like I grew up at the skate park. Used to go down there like every day instead of going to school kind of thing. And it's always just been a big part of my life. So yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. And you mentioned wanting like more just freedom and creativity. And I think one of the things that draws me to your content is that you're just a really like sort of countercultural thinker. And you're talking about a lot of ideas that maybe are not just like the stock ideas. So have you always been a person that kind of like thinks outside the matrix, or how are you, has that kind of always been a part of what you think and believe?
I don't think so. Like I said, like I, sort of, I felt like I tried to go sort of a traditional route, like with my education. And yeah, like I really enjoyed, high school and university and, doing my courses and sitting exams and sort of working in those fields and everything like that. But yeah, I guess there did there came a point eventually where I did feel like it was quite constricting, and I felt like um I just I couldn't exist in that sort of um like system and be happy. I sort of felt like I felt like I just had to. I felt like I had no choice but to sort of try something new and a little bit weird and a little bit different, which was like the game dev thing, and just like I had no idea where it was going to lead when I started, and obviously it was a bit scary because it was like I felt like I was abandoning like my career. Essentially, it was like I'd put all this time and effort into sort of establishing myself in like a field of chemistry and studying and everything, and then to leave that all behind to jump ship to game development. Yeah, it felt terrifying. It felt awful. It felt I didn't know what to expect, but I felt like there was no alternative. So it's just that ever since like that sort of pivotal moment, I guess it is a little bit, off the beaten track kind of thing, but it doesn't feel like it's, you know, like it doesn't feel like there's another alternative. So it's like it's just I sort of just do it.
Yeah, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Yeah, I think there was a moment when I felt just like these systems are not for me and they don't care about me. And it was when I was working at a really bad job. Luckily, I have a pretty good job now, so it's not more, mentally stable. But when I was working this really bad job, and I was working outside in a heat index of like 115, unloading a truck. And I asked these people, like, hey, can I do some of this loading inside? They had the room for it. There was double doors. It would have been easily possible. And they're just like, no, that's against our policy. We can't let you do that. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just this moment of like my mind just exploded of like, this is the most simple, basic human kindness. And some corporate rule is going to keep you from helping me maybe not literally die. And so, um,
Yeah.
all that to say, yeah, there's definitely systems that suck. And I think for me, I found in my adult life that creativity is one of the things that I like turn to kind of keep myself mentally happy. And you talk a lot on your channel just about a lot of topics, whether it be depression or motivation or, you know, busyness being oppression. So I guess just for you, where does creativity lie in fighting off those feelings or maybe contributing to feelings of negativity sometimes could say that is so hard even too.
For me, I feel like I'm always happiest when I'm creating because I I feel like it's just how a human being is just meant to be. Like I think a human being that is creating things is a healthy human being. And I think it's sort of I think it goes two ways. I think when your health is in a good state, you naturally want to create. And I also think while you're creating, that tends to bring you back into health as well. But I think we need to express ourselves. I think we need to make stuff that's like beautiful. I think we need to challenge ourselves. And yeah, like in my case, I have to be creative. Otherwise, I feel suffocated and I start to feel sick. I feel like my body starts to shut down. I feel like I start to get depressed. Um, I feel like I start to get easily agitated and like moody and all these sorts of things. And as usually as soon as I start to express myself, like through making a game or whether it's like making music or something like that, again, it's like I feel like I can get those like feelings out and channel them into something. And yeah, whenever I do that, I feel much more balanced. So yeah, just creativity is sort of a broad general theme, sort of sits like right at the center. I feel like of just who I am. And yeah, like I was saying, like with the chemistry and stuff, I felt like I didn't have as much room as I think I needed to like express that side of me. I felt like even just in like different jobs that I've had, like I feel like I have a hard time sort of staying in a place or staying in a role or staying in a system where I don't have like the autonomy to do the things that are um interesting to me and to express myself. So that's just who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. Do you ever feel stuck in game dev on either just like, or is it just there's so many different elements that you can always kind of shift as needed, or just because it's all creative, it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I feel stuck, man. I feel stuck. Yeah, probably 50% of the time. I think half the time I feel like I'm on the ball and things are moving, and then the other half of the time, yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think partially that's just the nature of it. I think it's natural to go through cycles like that because obviously, if you're developing or doing anything creative, and I think if you're doing it properly, you naturally outgrow sort of the old ways of thinking that perhaps you used to have. Like as you're learning new tools and as you're learning more about yourself through the things that you create, and finishing works or abandoning works or whatever, I think you naturally leave old stuff behind and then go on to new stuff. And there's always a transition period in the middle where it's like, for me, for example, like sometimes I work on a project for maybe 4 to 6 months at a time, and it's all going well, and then eventually, bit by bit, I sort of start to peter out and I start to lose interest in it, and then there comes this like temptation to just like quit it and like move on to the next thing, and or just put it on the back burner and like maybe take a break or something like that. And I think one of the arts of indie game development and probably anything creative is sort of just, learning what call to make in what situation, and like whether it's the right thing to try and stick your project through to the end, or maybe you need a break, or if you should work on something else for a while. But yeah, I think the main thing I think for me that I've realized is that those feelings of stuckness, they're always like trying to point you to like a deeper sort of path, or like an understanding of like who you are and like the work that you're meant to be doing. It's like, if I feel resistance towards a project that I'm working on, that's sort of an invitation for me to ask myself, well, what is it about this that's like pissing me off, or like what is it that's boring to me? Like, and if I don't address that feeling of boredom that I have with the project, then it's like, then the project starts to become boring to the people that play it, I think, because I then start to feel like I'm showing up at the computer sort of, slogging away at this thing, not really engaged in it. And then I just produce mediocre stuff because I'm just like trying to get it done rather than giving it the love and attention that it needs. So when I start to feel like that, then usually it's just a sign that I need to sort of reflect on what's going on, and then, maybe scrap some old plans that I had and make some new ones. So yeah.
Yeah, that's reminding me. I saw a video. Are you familiar with Hank Green, the science guy on YouTube?
Who was that? Sorry.
Hank Green, I think is his name. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, he's an American science guy, and he was saying today that he doesn't ever want to follow his dreams. He wants to follow his tools. And essentially, he was saying like he kind of is always trying to find the path of least resistance, the thing that interests him most. And I was really going back and forth in my head of like, yes, I want to find ways that are easy to fall into because I'm excited. But also with something like game dev, sometimes you just reach sort of peaks and valleys that if it's something you're passionate about, you have to sometimes, trek up the mountain. Sometimes it's downhill. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you feel like with game dev, I don't feel like for anyone it can never be all downhill, but what are your thoughts on that?
That quote. So what did he say? He said it's not about following your dreams, but about using your tools or following your tools. I find that can be quite helpful, because oftentimes, like, the notion of like scope creep for games is obviously like a popular thing that people talk about, and because games just take an immense amount of work, and there's lots of different parts in it. And when you think up an idea that you've got for a game, sort of the gap between, maybe where your skills are and where you want the game to be can obviously be enormous. And there's a lot of things that you need to learn. And as you start to work on it, it can seem to stretch out and become even bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's very easy to get overwhelmed and disheartened. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that, people don't finish games, is essentially because they get disheartened because just because it's hard, I think.
Yeah.
And and so like it's I think it's good to have like a vision or a dream of a game that you want to make. But yeah, in my experience, I found that focusing too much sort of on that vision can actually be crushing in the day to day. And I find myself sort of in situations where if I get too attached to what I think the outcome should be, then it's just the work just becomes unbearable, because every day it's like I struggle to get up and get on the computer because I just feel, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to learn this, I've got to do this. And then there's this bug and like this thing that I haven't learned, and like it just feels overwhelming. And so something that I've learned to do more of, I think, as I've done more games and, seen which ones I've taken to completion and which ones I've abandoned and what the difference is between the two. Some of it does come down to just like thinking about the day to day and thinking about, well, okay, what tools have I got that are right in front of me? What's the next thing that is like available for me to do? And rather than thinking about sort of rather than reverse engineering from like the end result, thinking, okay, well, I need to learn all this so that I can publish the game or get the game that I want. Sort of just like readjusting my approach to think, well, this is what I know. These are the tools I've got. This is where the project's at. These are the features I could implement like today. And then just focusing on that. And then it's like, well, given those sort of like initial conditions, it's like, well, maybe I could try this or maybe I could try this. And then just sort of following it bit by bit and bit by bit. And then eventually you end up somewhere that looks a bit different to what you maybe initially imagined. But I feel like it ends up a lot more alive because it's like your experience of developing is sort of like based in the day to day, and you're always following things that you're engaged with. So using the tools as well, like just because game development obviously it's difficult, and so, and so like thinking about what you've got access to and then what you can do with those tools rather than starting at the end and trying to do the tools in reverse, I think can be a good approach. But it depends on the person, it depends on the project. And
Yeah, I think that's a really good framework. And so maybe he is right. Like maybe just don't have dreams, so to speak. But yeah, I think I like the nuance you added of sort of, making problems smaller, working on your day to day. Now I'm making
don't
this
get me wrong,
podcast.
like
Go
I
ahead.
just want to say, don't get me wrong, like I'm not going to say don't have dreams, because I feel like the vision for the future is like that's like the whole reason why you develop. I think if you fixate too much on just like the daily tasks and don't have like a compelling thing that you're aspiring to work towards, then there's literally no, like, it feels like there's no reason to work because there's no reason to get excited about it. But I think the difference is not being like a slave to the vision that you've got and feeling like, well, now I'm forced to learn all this shit so that I can do that. And sort of, I guess it's a little bit of both, maybe. Like you sort of have one foot in the end and one foot in the day to day, and then just walk a path like kind of in between.
Yeah, that's a super helpful clarification because I think ultimately almost every person gets into game dev because they have a big idea. We all have that MMO or the game we played that we want to make that we could never make by ourselves, but it's still good to have that vision. Now,
I
for
think people should
someone,
try it. Well, I think you should try. Like, I think if you're inspired by something like that, and the thought of it gives you energy to go ahead and like tackle it. I think that's one of the most important things to learn, like to have the energy to learn the skills that then you can take onto a new project or whatever. Like whether or not, again, like if you actually reach that goal that you want, is sort of, it's not necessarily the point. I think the most important thing is that you're engaged, and I think if having a vision helps you be engaged and learn the things that you need to learn, then yeah, good.
yeah, it's kind of like that quote, shoot for the stars and you'll at least hit the moon or whatever, like dream
I think
big,
so.
but
Yeah.
be satisfied with anything that you get to that is rewarding. Um, so I'm making this podcast mostly to motivate myself by talking to cool people that are making games because I've given up on game dev twice and always felt super sad about it. But also I want it to be helpful to people that are finding like game dev's too hard or they're first getting into it. So for someone that's just like maybe new, maybe they don't feel like they have many tools, where do you think people should start? Like where's a good entry point?
YouTube. There's plenty of content on YouTube. The way that I started was basically I'd search stuff on YouTube and just save a bunch of playlists of tutorials and things that I wanted to learn. And just whenever I wanted to work next, is I'd just go through those tutorials and just recreate the mechanics or recreate the environments and just follow step by step until I could pick up on what people were learning or what people were making. Sorry. And I think just tinkering with your own projects. I think once you sort of follow a couple of tutorials and get an idea for, maybe how to make a specific sort of mechanic, then like take what you've learned in that tutorial and then, see if you can combine it with knowledge that you've learned from other tutorials, and then see if you can make something unique from combining those things. And I think that can keep people quite busy in the start, because there's obviously there's so much free information on YouTube. I think a lot of great high quality information. It's just a matter of just making the time to do it. I think in terms of the motivation, I think for me, like I was always so passionate about it that I'd wake up and just get on the computer just because I loved it, kind of thing. Like I just thought it was just so fun to make games, and like I couldn't wait to, learn how to make this new mechanic, and I'd go to sleep like thinking about my games and like jotting notes in my phone and shit like that. But sort of as I've gotten a bit older, something that I've realized is way more significant than I ever appreciated was just like the value of like community as well. And get like indie game dev especially, I think can be incredibly isolating, like especially if you're not taking like a traditional path through like a university or something where it's like you've got your classmates and the sort of environment where you've got mentors and things that you're all sort of in it together. If you're learning it from home just on the internet, it can be very easy to fall into this sort of perception that like you're bad at it because like, the only things that you see on the internet are obviously like highlight reels of what people have done after like 20 years of experience. And then you compare that to your work and you're just like, holy shit, like how did people do that? Like you feel like maybe the stuff that you create is worthless because it's like, it just doesn't look like anything compared to what people are showing. But and yeah, it's not helpful. Like I think it's one thing to be inspired by what people are putting on the internet, but I think when you're constantly bombarded with like the highest like quality of stuff, especially as a beginner, it can be very easy to doubt yourself if you don't have the support of people around you who can like encourage you. So yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've sort of realized and tried to do more of is just like getting people to connect to each other and to just talk to each other so that you've got, people that you can chat with on Discord or whatever, send like progress back and forward between each other, send questions back and forward, send resources, sort of get each other's like feedback on things, play each other's games. Like we have this thing going at the moment. We have a group of us, there's like 5 or 6 of us that catch up every Tuesday and we just play test each other's games. And it's just like, it's super, super low pressure, super casual, and just, every week, just like a metronome. It's like, oh, who's got a new feature in their game? It's like, oh yeah, I've done this. And it's like, then we just jump in and test it out and a bunch of shit breaks and we have a laugh. And then, we go off and work on it over the week and then just try again. And I feel like it's those like small sort of regular interactions that, like one, keep you on track, because it's like you've got a reason to develop, because it's like, well, your friends are going to test it like on Tuesday, so like let's try and get something done so that we can have a good time, kind of thing. You get feedback like outside opinions and perspectives on your work, and that's super important, like if it's people that you trust, because they can help you like come up with good ideas for how to improve things and like lift you up. And yeah, like just the encouragement, like seeing people play your game is obviously very validating, and it's good to play other people's games as well because it inspires you and you sort of get this like feedback loop sort of going. So yeah, I think the community is super important, especially in the beginning, because also like you can waste a lot of time doing things like the hard way when you could just ask somebody who's like more experienced and they can be like, well, have you thought of this? Or they'll send you a link to a video or something and you're like, oh shit, like that solves that problem. Rather than like spending a week like trying to find the information. So yeah, I think the relationship of like a student to a mentor kind of thing, I think it's pretty underrated. I think it can be hard to come by. Like I don't feel like those arrangements are sort of that common these days, but I think they are very important. And if you can find like a mentor in whatever form that takes, even if it's just like a friend who's like slightly more experienced than you, who you can just ask questions occasionally, it makes a massive difference. And I think that's the thing with mentoring as well, that I think people maybe don't necessarily realize, is that it's rewarding for the mentor as well to teach things. And it helps cement things for them when you're asking them questions and they get to share their knowledge. Like it's a mutually beneficial thing. So like what my advice that I'd give to people who are starting in game development is just not be afraid to ask people for help. Like, even if, like, they've got like a big like channel or whatever, or you think that they look famous or whatever, like, just you never know until you try, kind of thing. So it's like it's worth contacting people and like introducing yourself, and even if they are too busy or whatever, it's like maybe they know somebody who can, they can link you up with. Um and also like the peer-to-peer sort of dynamics as well, like even just having friends that are in the same situation and learning game development. I think, yeah, that's just as valuable as a mentorship arrangement, because you get this back and forward of like, oh well, I learned this week and I learned this week, and you get to watch each other progress and try and keep up with each other. And yeah, that'd be my advice for that.
Yeah, and luckily we live in a digital age where you can connect with people literally all over the world if you just put yourself out there. Now, I do want to shift gears and utilize our time and just ask you. I think you've done something that a lot of people really aspire to do. Well, I think so, but you have 3 games released on Steam. Are those all solo games? Or
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. So just how did you actually, I mean, like most people I feel like don't release or finish one game, but then another, like there's another stat that almost no one puts out a second game. So how did you have both just the fortitude and vision to get actually 3 published games out on Steam?
Well, it took a long time to get the first one out, and for a long time, um I just developed because I love to do it, I think. And I didn't really have an attachment to necessarily publishing it, even though, I I am glad that I've put them on Steam and all of that. But really, the reason for me to develop those games was just to basically learn how to make games. Like, it was because, I had ideas in my head that I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could create them. And so I had those games sitting around on my computer for years, actually, before I published them to Steam. And then, yeah, I think I would have been maybe like 5 years into game development before I published the first one. And yeah, after that, I sort of had the realization that, like, yeah, I didn't want to keep them just like on my PC anymore, just
Mm.
like just for me and my friends. Like, I wanted to make them public. And so, yeah, it just, it took a little bit of work to polish them up a little bit so that they'd be a bit more presentable. And um yeah, I mean, I'd love to do more. Like, um it's just, yeah, it all just takes time, I suppose. And yeah, just I think that the passion for making the games, I think, is the primary thing. And then, you sort of just, you publish it after, if you feel like it. For me anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now I know we're limited on time, so we can
Is.
close with this one last question. But
Yeah.
would you say you have any kind of dream related to game dev? You're a person that's clearly inspired more by creativity than maybe the business side, and you want to share. So just what does your dream look like the next, 10 or 20 years of making games?
Well, when I when I'm working like in my day to day, um, I used to do a lot of work on my own. Like I was saying before, like my previous 3 games, was solo games. But my current project, I'm working with a team of, I think we've got like maybe 6 of us now, and everybody's just working on like a purely, you know, sort of volunteer basis. Like, we don't have the money to pay anybody. It's just sort of, we've got a bit of spare time here and there, so we chip away at this project and see what we can get done. And then when we publish it, we'll do like a revenue share, or maybe pay people if we can get some funding or something. But what my sort of dream is like, well, I look at my teammates and see like how passionate and talented they are at the things that they do. And the thing that sort of breaks my heart a bit is just that it feels um like they want to invest more time into game development, but it's like they can't, just because of the practicalities of like just like living and like trying to make money. And obviously, like, we're a small studio, so it's like, we haven't sort of amassed the momentum to really generate like cash flow from our work. So what I'd really love is to just to get, you know, the studio or whatever we call our group, like to a point where, the people that I work with that I know and I trust and I respect can, be paid for what they do. Like that's like literally it. It's like I just want them to be able to make work that they're passionate about. I want them to be able to, follow the things that are interesting to them and challenge themselves and learn new skills and just create beautiful shit, and then to be like rewarded and supported in doing that. And I think as long as we can, make that work, yeah, I mean that's like success for me. So and I will tack on the end of that as well. Like yeah, my current project, it's called Void Tender. It's a sort of a wildlife photography game, but with weird sort of dream core entities rather than sort of natural life like you find out in the real world. And I'm sitting as like the director on that because the inception of it sort of started with me, and people have been interested in it, so they've joined in the fold and are working on it with me to help me with different parts. But everybody who's in our little studio, they've also got their own projects, and a lot of them are in very early stages, but they're all very unique and different, and they're sort of a reflection of like each individual person. So what I'd really love is to have like a studio dynamic where it's like we sort of rotate seats as like the director. So it's like because all the games, like they're so different, and the only way that they're going to be able to become the fully fledged version of what they could potentially be is like with the unique person in the sort of leadership role, and get everybody else to sort of fill in and contribute their unique skills to make it happen. And so what I'd love is like a studio where maybe we do my project for like this 6 months, and then we shift everybody around, and then we have a different person in the director for the next one, and then just see what happens when we've got different people in different roles and different sort of like forms and like I want to say like hierarchies of government, but not even necessarily, just like just different ways of relating to each other and of trying to set up a project and whatever. So yeah, that's what I'd love to do. I'd love to take all my friends' games and be able to fund them and generate some money from them or whatever, and just empower people to make the games that they love. So yeah, that's literally it.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure to drop a link to any of your YouTube channel and anything else you want me so that people can check that out. And although that's a super beautiful dream, I was filled with joy just thinking about that and people sharing in the past creativity. So I really hope that becomes a reality for you and your friends. And thanks so much for chatting today. I really appreciate your time, Jackson.
That's all right. I will say on the end as well, like if you get, for yourself or any, game developers like watching it, like also like feel feel free to reach out. Like, it's I feel like I was saying before, like it can be difficult and it can seem daunting to like start with this sort of thing, and it can save a lot of time. Like if you just ask somebody for an opinion or ask for help. And I think the more that people can communicate with each other as well, I think the more we can like connect each other to the types of people that are going to be supportive. It's like say like somebody watching this comes to me and needs some help doing environment art or some music, or they're not sure how to tackle some like blueprint problem, and maybe I don't have the time, or maybe it's not my particular skill set, but like I know somebody who is like suitable for that position. It's like you just ask, and it's like, oh well, I can't do it, but this person can. And then once you form those connections, it's like everything just gets so much easier. So yeah, just communicate.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I also did need to drop that you also work in Unreal with blueprints and have some assets available. So I can drop all that below. So if people want to check those out, and as you said, people can just hit you up on the YouTube channel or the Discord or wherever they want to find you. So, okay.
With the assets and things as well, they can like depending on the assets, like and which country people live in and things like that, they can be quite expensive. And so I like to just caveat that with like if you just want to use it as like a student or something, or you're an indie dev and you don't have the budget, like you can also just DM me and I can send it over or give you a discount, or we can always do like labor swaps and things like that. I think there's more ways to support each other than necessarily just exchanging cash.
Yeah.
And like I said, like it can be very difficult as an indie dev to get up and going, and so I'm very aware of that, and I'm happy to support in like whatever way that I can. So just contact me, like if in doubt. Yeah,
All right. Well, thanks, man. It's been a real pleasure.
it's my pleasure. Thank you.